Fellas, it's been a long time waiting to get y'all on this episode to see the table, man.
Nice.
But look, man, before we kind of get into it, just want to give everybody an update or kind of what we're doing here. So obviously, you know, Seat at the Table is all about having conversations that are impacting our community, right? To either bring awareness, but more importantly, lift us up in a different direction. And so this topic today, man, is something that I know we've all experienced to some degree, or at least been exposed to this idea. And I want us to dig in, and it's this concept of hood rich. Like, what does hood rich look like? So look, we're gonna unpack that. And I want to start by just at least hearing from each of you guys, especially people who may never heard that term. If we were to define hood rich, what is hood rich? Like, what is hood rich? How do you define that?
I would say probably something like flamboyantly living outside of your means. But this could cover many definitions. So that's just one, you know what I mean? I guess anybody else?
Yeah, so I mean, just to piggyback on what Buck was saying, we're trying to live a lifestyle higher than what our finances pretty much bringing in. You know, so, you know, it doesn't just stay with Louis and Gucci, it's how you purchase your cars and stuff, but in reality, you should be living a lifestyle that shouldn't really be on that level, you know? Leave that to the people who can really afford it, you know?
Correct. Dwayne, any thoughts? How you define hood rich?
Well, hood rich usually is attributed to low income environments or neighborhoods, and is usually indicative of people who are living, let's say, a high income lifestyle in a low income neighborhood. That's how you could define hood rich.
So I agree. I mean, all y'all hit the nail on the head, man. And look, this is something that, in my opinion, has impacted and affected our community. And I think a lot of it's tied to, my thoughts, is either to try to impress somebody, right? Or to live, to show people that, you know, they say live with the Joneses, to show people something that maybe we don't necessarily have, right? So, all right, so with that mindset though, it's affecting our community, like we know that. So I guess my question to you is, why is consumerism, or this idea of like, yo, I gotta have this, have that, why is it hurting us so bad? Like why?
I think the allocation of our funds are being spent in a manner that's not advantageous to us long term.
Correct.
So that's what I would probably say. So yeah, if you are in the mindset of, yo, I have to get this, you're placing, yeah, it's basically you're placing your wants ahead of your needs.
Of course.
So once you do that,
Yeah.
you're pretty much setting yourself up to lose the game.
Correct.
Because it's one thing to treat yourself one time here and there. Of course, we're not gonna say that, hey, if you're making 25K a year, you can't get a pair of Jordans. You know what I'm saying? If that's something you really desire, something you wanna attain, then by all means, you're entitled to make a purchase.
Correct.
But the one thing is, now with the hood rich mentality, you find yourself chasing your wants and acquiring those wants a little bit too much, to the point that it's actually affecting your living conditions, your needs, it's influencing your savings drastically.
Correct.
You're putting off responsibilities such as rent, phone bills, things of that nature.
Necessities.
Right, you're not paying off your debt, but instead you're running to make an acquisition. Yo, I gotta have a new, whatever it is, instead of, you know, getting out of debt, which
Correct.
is a necessity.
But all right, so I get the action, but why are people doing that? Like, I mean, look, we're not some psychologists. We can't but if you had to take a guess, like, yo, like this is why people, and I think they're different both for men and women reasons. Again, I'm no expert in this, but if I just had some thoughts, why do we think people are doing that? Like, why are they chasing J's instead of paying rent? Why are they living in the basement with a dope car? Or why are they like making $50,000 a year, but living like they make $250,000 a year? Like, what's the root for that?
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, I think it goes back to we're all competitive. I mean, at least as guys, we're competitive people as individuals, but sometimes you want to try to one up the next person.
Yeah.
All right, so you sit there like, well, we all have plain black T-shirts on, but I want to stand out more. Let me go spend $200 on a shirt or a pair of Jordans that make me look different, right?
Correct.
Same time, things are more acceptable in the culture via whether it's social media, commercials, your TVs, saying that, well, having this Tesla make you this type of person, or make you the popular person in the crew. So people are like, well, I want to be popular. I want to be this. So it's like, well, let me get that. That makes me happy. That puts me above the next person.
Yeah.
All right.
Such a good point.
So, and also, you know, to piggyback off of that, I feel like we're like conditioned so much. Judgment is so heavy in today's society, period. So it's not even on the scale of us being adults. If you send a child to school and his getup is trash, or his book bag has a stick man on it instead of Naruto or Avatar or something like that, his peers will tend to possibly make jokes,
So true.
look at you different. If your shoes aren't clean, if your shirt is wrinkled, we're judging each other from that small. And, you know, in dialoguing now, you don't even really think about it on the surface, even when you probably thought of the concept. We're probably not even realizing how much this like judgment and perception and what people think about us, it influences us from that little. That kid doesn't want to go to school.
Correct.
So he's learning from 2.
Yeah.
Yo, I got a stunt when I pull up. Yo, I need this thermos. I need this book bag. I gotta have these sneakers. Like, bro, you only 4 or 5, but you already in that mindset. And the young boys are already judging. The young girls are looking at already. Oh, he's cute. Oh, he got the new Boruto, Naruto book bag. Like, we deep, man.
Dude.
It's really, really deep.
Yo, you talk my language, man, because I remember growing up, my parents are from Africa. They didn't have an appreciation for Nike, like, you know what I'm saying?
Didn't matter.
Yo, but I remember growing up, man, and I didn't have the pumps. You know what I'm saying? I had the fake LA Gears, I didn't have shell toes. It was the 4K Swiss.
Ooh.
I remember and me thinking like, guess what? I got some new sneakers. I'm fresh. And getting cut up in school, man.
Still catching it.
Yo, still catching it. Yo, that joke used to hurt me, bro. Like, real talk.
That's real.
And not everybody, I mean, I chuckle about it now, but I remember at the time, no, man, it was traumatic. And I was like, I didn't almost want to go to school. I didn't want to go to school. I had to though, but it was tough. And I tried to explain to my dad, stop buying me these sneakers. Everyone, and he said, oh, Boogie, don't worry about them. I was like, I have to worry about them, man, like, because people keep laughing on me. But let me tell you the impact I had though.
Yeah.
The first job I got, legal job, because I used to go in T, you know, mostly it was selling whatever, but the first thing I was 14 years old. Bro, I spent outside of paying my tithe, and I was good. I said, the Lord, take your 10%.
Nice.
There you go.
Nice.
Outside of that, bro, every dollar I got went to buying clothes, Coogee sweaters, jerseys. That's all between 14 and 18.
Heavy.
Never invested, never did nothing. It was all about like,
Heavy.
I'm fresh.
Heavy.
But here's the thing though, like, even when I put those clothes on and I was fresh, like, it meant nothing. Like, I didn't feel like it was cool for a second. Oh, that's hot, but that was it. Sometimes I was like, yo, did I do all of that?
Right.
Yo, that's dope. I just think a lot of people today are yearning for, oh snap, that's hot.
How old were you when you got that job?
14.
Oh, word?
14 years old.
And you already you wasn't even.
All I know is
Okay.
that I'm never struggling like that again. Because I remember I went to my dad, yo, Dad, can you buy me this authentic jersey? He said, how much is this? I said, $100. He said, get lost. I would never buy you that kind of stuff. And I understand his thinking because it made no sense
Zero.
to buy something for $100 for a shirt to impress somebody.
Because that's the undertone of what it is.
Correct.
You know what I mean? It's not.
But when you're involved in it so much, you know what I'm saying, and you go into school, and it's not just hood rich concepts. It's everything that we do is tied to, am I pleasing somebody else?
Right. So if there weren't anyone else living a hood rich lifestyle, it probably wouldn't even be something that people would do. If you were alone and you like, oh, well, it's really only like 5 other people around in the spot that I live, or you don't even pursue that. You know what I mean? So, and then the stuff you said, like, if you look back, if we really want to dive into it, your parents are coming from a country where kids in Africa went to school. Our parents are from Guyana. So when they all were going to school, you had a standard shirt.
Legit.
Your shirt could, not to say it could be dirty,
No, but it
because
was
they
not
had a
fresh.
standard as far.
No, correct.
Right. It could not be fresh. Your shoes, along with everybody else's shoes, are the basic. Once it got laces, it's good to go, and you're walking through dirt all day long.
All day, every day.
So it's like you can't even focus on that type of stuff. But then in this nation that we now live in, from young ages, that's already the focus. We're cultivated into being consumers from childhood.
So Dwayne, let me ask you this. What role do some of our leaders, right? When I say leaders, think people who are in the spotlight, hip hop artists, growing up to that stuff, what role do they play in this idea of consumerism in your perspective?
Oh, a huge role. You might say that it could be actually part of the problem, to be honest. With it. We know that media gives people a platform. And people tend to idolize people who have platforms. So that's why people who have platforms, they'll get paid millions in order to actually endorse a product. So if you're gonna give people millions to endorse a product, you already know that they have done market research, that if they are investing millions for you to wear this brand, they're not going to continue to pay someone that level of money if you have a good
return on investment,
or ROI, right?
So
the return on that investment is not making any sense. They would cease to do that. But it's been a continual thing. So to answer the question, it's very valuable because a lot of the things are marketed that we have are marketed through celebrities, through athletes, people who have platforms.
So, all right, because now you open a whole nother can of worms. Retailers. Do you think retailers, the big retailers we know, do you think they understand or know about this concept of hood rich? And do they plan around it?
Yeah, they might not understand the depth that, or let's say not the depth, they understand the depth. They might not understand the vibe of what hood rich is, A to Z,
terminology,
right? But they do understand what the black dollar is. So it's estimated that the black dollar is about 1.3 trillion. That's our spending power. They're also aware that compared to other races that, and this is all market research, that the black dollar only stays within our community for 7 hours compared to Jewish community, which may be around 17 or 18 days. Asian community is much higher, about 28 days. So when you understand that, or that information is there, why wouldn't you market to a group of people with such a high level of spending power and such a low level of circulation within the community when we don't really own much of anything anyway? That means, hey, if we market to these group of people, the money is going to come back to us in some way, shape, or form anyway. So why not? So they may not understand the details like we do because we grew up in an urban neighborhood, but they understand the numbers very, very well. So yes, they understand to a degree what hood rich is. They
Yeah.
may not define it as hood rich,
But
but
they know the black
they
dollar.
understand what the black.
Cause I'm wondering, like,
dollar-
does Louis Vuitton know how our sisters be trying to like do everything to get it back? Like, you know what I'm saying? Or again, I'm picking on them, but there's certain things that are what are considered high end
Yeah.
that we overreach for, even though we probably shouldn't be buying it. And I wonder how much a company like Tiffany or whatever is thinking like, yeah, we can get some of the people reaching. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's a whole market like in itself. You know what I mean?
Right.
Do you think the passions or desires for consumerism is different for men and women? Like the reason why? And this might be a controversial question, but I'm just
Oh yeah, definitely. Because we could give our perspective, and then women will always have
Their perspective.
that's fine. It's a safe space. See at the table. It's a safe space.
Yeah. But yeah, you can rock.
Yeah, I mean, first answer come to mind is you're always trying to look good for the opposite sex, right? You're always trying to look good for the female, trying to impress, let her know, I'm a fresh guy, I look good. But at the same time, I think as a man, you've always said you need to provide for your family, right?
Correct,
So if you
correct.
don't look like you can provide,
Correct.
you don't think you may attract a woman.
Yeah.
Right? So I have to look like I have something so she knows that she's not messing with a guy who can't take care of her.
Yeah.
All right, so I think some of that comes into play when it comes to like owning and like purchasing and
Correct.
trying to show that we have value.
Correct.
And the best place to do that is
Yeah.
how you look.
Correct. Why do we struggle with that shift though? Because look, that whole like wave that I had between 14 and 19, when I was just buying clothes, which by the way, I don't know where any of those clothes are. Like not even one. I wish I could find a jersey that I bought so I could play ball in. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I literally can't find any of that. But something hit, and you brought up a good point, Dirk, like where it came to, I want to be a provider now. And there was a shift from consumerism to like, all right, now it's about my paper. Let me invest something. Let me buy something. Let me build something. That's not happening in our community though. There are folks who, to be quite frank, that stigma from what I was talking 14 carries on to their adulthood where they're still trying to cop the latest this and cop the latest that. Like, and I guess I would love, some perspective and thought. Like, if the move is protecting, why can't we shift from consumerism to ownership?
Well, the Matrix is the Matrix for a reason. And agents are placed in the Matrix to keep the Matrix running the way it's supposed to run.
Yeah.
It's supposed to benefit the system, not necessarily the people. So yeah, they don't want Neo. This is just an example. I think everybody's familiar with the Matrix.
Yeah.
They don't want Neo and everyone waking up to the reality of the real world and living in it. So the system will constantly send agents out to bump and wipe off whoever is a threat to the system. So, and that applies with us. The higher ups who's running these businesses, they want us to continuously fall in line. So they do anything in their power to make sure that we stay buyers. Because if the day we turn into owners, it disrupts their system. And they don't want that. So they're gonna constantly pour millions, marketing is everything. Millions are poured into marketing in order to brainwash or whatever, zombie us into staying consumers. That's the agenda.
Damn. But even this whole thing you talk about, like the black dollar, like leaving. If we have all this power, there's enough power to empower ourselves. Like we can, look, there's no cavalry coming to save us, but we could lift ourselves up if we buy black. If we tell people, yo, listen, put your dollar here, not there. Like maybe not J's, and not to pick on Mike, but how people wait online just to buy J's, or people wait online to buy Apple. Why don't you own an Apple stock? Like, why don't you own the Nike stock? Why don't you become an owner? And I just need to figure out how we could actually convert that, because Yo, we could talk social injustice, bro. We could talk education reform. We could talk all that stuff. If we don't get economic liberation, if we're not financially free, like, you know what I'm saying? If we don't exercise the power that we have, it's a different ballgame, man. So I think I'm interested in seeing how we could have that conversation. And from you, I would love to hear from you guys, like, what do you think we need to do to shift that conversation so that we're educating more people today to be less hood rich, right? And become owners, man, like real bosses.
Well, that's a very loaded question, and then there's a lot of different levels to that as well.
Touch on
And everything affects everything. So when you ask how do we do that, it's gonna have to segue into an element of education.
Yeah.
Were you ever taught or led or have appropriate examples of people who are entrepreneurs? We live in a culture or a society, or I'll keep on explaining, a matrix where we're taught or ingrained from young to grow up and get a good job.
Correct.
Most times, more times than not, if you are trained in the element of getting a job, buying a home, getting married, that's the track. So if you're in an element of, I'm gonna go to college and create debt, and I know that's something that you're gonna talk about in a podcast. So you go to college, create debt, get a job, now you have to pay off the debt. Now you've been broke for so long.
Correct.
Now you're looking to be a consumer. So now you're out consuming things and running up credit cards.
Yep.
So you stay constantly, you need money to start and capital to start a business. And then you need trial and error time in order to establish, fail before you can even get over the hump as an owner to actually live that.
Average business takes 7 years to become successful.
Right, to become successful. So most people have aspirations to start a business because this concept sounds good, but then the reality of it, sometimes if you're too busy working a job, when do you have time to actually put into your business?
Correct.
And we didn't even talk about having children as yet. So if you look at all the elements, you will stay engulfed and entrapped until it becomes a part of the educational system from early to do things different. Now, to go a little bit further to answer your question, how do we change the narrative? Well, how do we change the narrative? I mean, as far as being in this system, it's not designed to make you or make the general population bosses and owners. It's designed to lace the pockets of those who are already established and create nepotism whereby you already have established business, you have children, they can either take it over or benefit from the financial gains that you have. You keep it within your circle. So why would you want to educate people? Why would you want to educate competition?
Good point. Go ahead.
That's a good point.
Nah, but here's the thing though, it's not, but we don't have to, me seeing you succeed in your business doesn't necessarily mean I have to fall. Like,
well, we're talking about the black community.
Correct.
Right. So,
but even in the black community, if I have a business, there's no reason why I can't pour into you and tell you how to be successful as well.
But you gotta see it first.
Yeah, you're touching a whole nother topic of black psychology as far as success amongst ourselves, and do we help one another? Or are we more interested in being the only one?
And that to me is a problem. Think about it. If you look, this first of all, pre-slavery, collectively black people were revered as successful educators, and we had a spirit of giving. That was that's how the colonialists came in and was able to sabotage Africa, because they took advantage of the spirit of, I'm gonna put somebody else on. Then you find yourself now, the pockets of success, even after we went through slavery, all that stuff, when you look at Black Wall Street, all that stuff, that was because people thrived. You talk about the black dollar staying in. Do you know that during that time of when Black Wall Street, money used to stay 3 to 6 months potentially in our community at that time. We had wealth. People put people on. We were on the shoulders of other people. So that concept is not foreign. We might need to fix it, but like, I'm open to I would love to have the debate of how do I give importance to you and you and me the skills that I know that help me build generational wealth? That's the only way we're gonna get there. As a people, like we're not there yet. And look, it bothers me. I get passionate about this. It just bothers me because I see the same cats that were cool in high school, bro, right now on the street looking like bumps. Looking like bumps. And I'm saying like, yo, it didn't have to be that way.
What happened to them?
I don't, honestly, it's a good question. My assumption is the mindset of consumerism, not having access to opportunity, making big mistakes, all those things poured in to where they are today.
So what answers the question is basically it appears, and this is not just happening in your hood, it's hoods all across America. So you have to conclude that maybe it's a systemic issue.
Oh, there is a systemic issue. But with that, what I'm saying though is the system is not gonna save us because your point is not designed to.
Right.
But if any people in the history of mankind have been able to persevere and break through and find loopholes, it's the black people. And all I'm saying is like, how do we take that same energy and drive and ingenuity? Because black excellence is dope. If you look at culture, if you look at, and they can try to take from us as much as they want, but if you look at the things that we've contributed to this world, not just entertainment, math, science, all of that stuff can't be taken away, cannot be taken away. And so what I'm saying is that I think as a people first, we need to identify who we really are. I think once we have that self-identity, like, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to be broke, I'm not supposed to be poor, I'm not supposed to be a drug addict. I come from the lineage of kings who owned, who built, who distributed, who led. Having that mindset and approach is what you're gonna need, and then start building and getting the information. That's where the education part is. We gotta start educating them on like, here's how you're gonna be successful. It's not necessarily math and science in high school. It's some of the intangibles. It's creating a space, especially as first generations. It's not always like entrepreneurship is always kind of look like weird. Like if you're an entrepreneur, you didn't hack it in life or you weren't successful. You know what I'm saying? Creating a space where we allow people to go and try to do something. But I just think we just need to have a conversation because this right now, like what we're going through, this poverty-stricken thing, and it's almost like you got a pill, right? Talking to Matrix, it's either you're gonna be a bum or you're gonna have to go to college. That's only two options you have. And oh yeah, when you go to college, you're gonna have like $70,000 in debt, and you're gonna work for a job making $30,000 a year. It's gonna take you about 20, 30, 40 years before you pay it off. By that time happens, your kids are about to go do the same mistake you do, and it's just the same kind of cycle. You know what I mean? So, I don't know, man.
Just it's funny while you was talking, I thought of so that's one part of it as far as teaching them business. Basically you're teaching them that school isn't necessarily the only option, there's other means. But even then, now that is kind of surface, and then it goes a few layers deep. So like Dwayne was saying, it's like a rabbit hole kind of. I had wrote a few bars in a song that I was writing, and it basically is black businesses thrived when we were forcefully separated. Don't support our own no more, only want they. We running around mental slaving, thinking stuff better if they made it. I bet, yup, we got Garvey and Marley doing grave flips. We have been conditioned to the point that if it's created by you, it's lower grade.
Man, that's deep.
We're to the point we don't even want services from our own because it's a few tiers lower than theirs. So now it's like, that's wild. So we'll always support their system on whatever level, whether it's product, whether it's service, anything, because the that mental slavery that's been done, we're looking at our own like, paint my house? Nah, I'm not getting one of mine because they're gonna do I'm gonna hire this guy because They always do great work. That's our perception. That's the slavery that we're actually been conditioned throughout generations to perceive your own people as being lower tier to them.
Yeah.
Sadly, but sometimes it's true.
Right.
Because
Very
we
true.
have examples of doing things and trying to go with our own, and they're not moving it thoroughly as they should as well. And then we have to, no, we always try to go our route first.
Yeah.
But-
Gotta be a little patient.
Yeah. And if we have to be a little more patient, cool. But sometimes it's blatant, like,
Not the same word.
A different.
not the same work. So then now it affirms
What some people think.
what some people think.
Yeah,
but
but
it's not all the time.
Correct.
Which becomes problematic because now you have a perception that
Correct.
it's always going to be this way.
But even if you take, so yeah, you're right, in terms of black businesses, I know I get it, and I still always try to support black businesses, but let's just take even institutions like schools. I could take a parent to a school that has all white kids, they automatically think, oh, this is a good school.
Yeah.
If I take them to a school, all black kids, I don't know, I need to see scores. And I'm talking about just same resources, same everything. There is this perception, and it's more ingrained than we think. I was telling someone, I was like, yo, my whole life, man, as a Christian, I really used to close my eyes and pray and imagine I was talking to a white guy with a hoodie. Like not a hoodie, but like the little cloth thing.
That's
And I was like, it wasn't until I got older, I was like, yo, first of all, Jesus is not even white, or at least wasn't white historically, but I'm conditioned already to think that that's my savior. Like a white guy is gonna save me. And if you're not intentional about it, like it's gonna happen. So I think there's truth to what you're saying. Like that's that psychological thing that we need to have a conversation about to unpack.
Deep.
So
That
it's
thing
subconscious,
runs.
Correct.
ingrained to the point now you're moving, acting, or thinking a certain way, and you don't even really know why on the surface.
Correct.
Until you get a Q&A or some deep, quiet time to understand. And when you subconsciously look at Jesus, your Savior, your God, as looking something other than you, that's also a subconscious effect on how you would carry in society and how you perceive yourself versus everyone else. And we've dealt with that in the religious realm because mostly other cultures, whether it's Indian or Chinese, like I don't think they perceive their God or Savior or higher beings looking something different than them,
Other than them, right?
right? So that's also a deep-rooted thing. So there's a lot of
So let me ask you this. We do got to wrap up this session, but if we were to, how do we fix this thing? That's what I want to get to. Like, how do we, like, I mean, there has to be a way. I'm not going to accept we're stuck in the matrix, it's over, the end of the story results, we die poor. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there needs to be something. And you study history, we've become victorious often. What do y'all think that is? I want to hear from everybody on this. So we're gonna go around. I'll start with you, Dirk. I want to go this way. How do we overcome this thing?
So one, just to like pretty much wrap up the session, it comes for what is the value of you? What is the value of you as a person, as an individual? What's the mentality that you're actually moving in, right? So we've been, as Buck mentioned, we have been conditioned from young to one, subconsciously probably devalue what we are able to provide, the skills that we probably already have, or the skills that the next man probably already have, the fact that we have to purchase things that they created because what we make is not good enough. So that ties back into this whole concept of consumerism. These big brands, they're not made by African Americans. So if I buy what they have, I become closer to them, which they have value, so I have value too. All right, so how do we correct this? Like, we have to be able to teach our children, build those communities and those pockets, those black Wall Streets that's unofficially a black Wall Street. Maybe we don't have to all be in one neighborhood, which would probably be best, but just being able to share content and information between one of us in platforms like this to say, look, you need to teach your children, your friends, that we don't need all the extras. Right? You have to understand what your basic necessities are. Yes, it's okay to splurge a little bit, but
Within means.
within your means.
Correct.
But how are we going to build from this? Right? We're never taught how to build, so we have to teach each other how do we build from step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5.
Buck, what you thinking?
Basically, I guess whenever we touch, and I'm sure Dwayne might have something in relation to what I'm saying. Whenever we talk about Black economics, hood rich, it's all related. It's all a form of it's like suppression in a sense.
Yeah.
Suppression, oppression, all of that. The root, I would think, as far as trying to even elevate or starting to dig out that hole, it stems outside of just starting a business and all of that other stuff. I think the core value is knowledge itself. We don't know really who we are, how valuable we are, our essence, our power. Like that's really like the smoke.
Correct.
Because just saying knowledge itself encompasses so many things, down to your pigment, to who you are, where you're from, how your ancestors lived, to what we come from, how we got here. It's so deep, and all those layers, when we look at the present, is a reflection of a whole bunch of stuff, like just compound pressed together. Correct. And we are now the reflection of years of oppression, suppression, and things done to us.
Correct.
So we're walking reflections of that. The only way, so when you ask the question, I think once we become more in tune with who we are, like that's taught from an early age, you kind of don't even allow certain stuff to be done to you. Correct. Because you're vibrating on such a higher level. It's like hood, it's like Louis Gucci.
Yeah.
Who's that? I don't even know who he is, or I know how he looked.
Correct.
Why am I chasing that?
Yeah.
That's not propelling me. It's not excelling me. And really, I know some cats that might be more lit than him. Or I understand that it's us that's been doing the designs.
Do all the work.
From inception.
Correct.
On almost everything in creation.
Correct.
So then now we talking like knowledge itself. We get there, and you get an understanding of that.
And behavior.
That changes the whole ecosystem.
That's deep. Diddy, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's one of the main nails is for us to be educated as far as who we are on all of those levels, who we are spiritually, what it is to be Black, what it is to have melanin, what's the value of that, right? Most people don't understand that. And it might be a good conversation for another segment as well, but it's almost to the point where, and it's a sad thing to address, but every time that we get on the verge of getting our act together, we get pushed back. Who is pushing us back? Why are they pushing us back? You know, always put it on my Facebook is an interesting question I put ever so often. I always ask integration or segregation. You know, Black Wall Street you brought up. Excellent. We were within our community doing our own thing. A lot of people don't even know about Black Wall Street and that there were other Black Wall Streets as well that existed where you had people executing what you're talking about as far as teaching, training, education, all of these levels, and those things tend to get dismantled. Black Panthers has been getting a lot of play right now, but if you don't know much about it, you might think they were like negatively militant organization.
Terrorist organization.
Terrorist organization. Actually, they were treated as though they were terrorist organization because they had guns and weapons and things, but they were only doing that to protect
They still might be
themselves.
registered that way.
But right. So there's a lot of levels of things to touch and address, but you know, that phrase, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step.
Right here.
So this podcast, us having a session to talk about these things is step one. Knowledge of self is step one. The home, the ad infrastructure, I don't think we mentioned that yet, is critically important to rebuild that, although that seems to have been dismantled and even dismantled on deeper levels even now in the past few years.
Yeah, of course.
So, so you need to get back, and when you say knowledge of self, I always want to follow it up. We got to get back to nature, doing things back into a natural way. And once we can do that, that would kind of flip things.
I think we also need to redefine what success is. I think this theory of success attached to materialism or wealth, meaning like dollars, or it's tied to how fresh you are, that is ingrained in a lot of young people's minds. And as we get older, I think we need to shift that. And like this concept of happiness, right, and helping others and purpose living, like that's should be the drive. That should be ingrained in how we educate and teach our young people, in addition to self-identity. Because I think that's one of the reasons why we do this birthright trip to Africa. Because it's like, yo, kids, do you know what it's like to be in a country where everybody looks like you? When you look at the billboards, they look like you. like from the janitor to the CEO looks like you. And to learn from a professor who's not jaded by like Western civilization, who can give you pure facts. And here's where that stuff is uplifted. And that's, the more I started learning, and I'm fortunate because I'm a Kenyan American. I know exactly, I can go back multiple generations to where kind of my people are. That's not the same for African Americans, a lot of them, that's why we can't even get deported, because they don't even know where to take us. Like they literally don't know where to take us. So now we're forced here in this country to operate, we're nowhere to shift, and it's like what do we do with them? And this is, I'm passionate about this. I've dedicated this. The reason why I'm having a seat at the table, because I want to figure out how we're going to lift this community, and I'm willing to bet my life on it. I'll spend my resources, I'll spend my money, I'll spend whatever it takes to have this conversation. And I'm glad, y'all came today, because A, I respect y'all a lot. B, we always have good conversation. And by the way, we talk about this all the time. This is not like a one-off thing. But this is something that we need to talk about. And even when this episode is aired and dropped, Black people specifically need to be listening to this. If you, whether you're in high school or adult, because parents got a role in this too. How we raise our kids is just as important. So look, with that being said, fellas, thanks so much for coming on this episode, man. Really appreciate y'all. And look, man, always a good vibe, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having us, man.
Nah, no doubt, man. Appreciate y'all, man.
Long brother.
Yes, sir, man. All right, cool, man.